Hey, everybody. If you want the full uncensored episode, be sure to click the link below to join the Fight Club on Patreon. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine. Nyland going ballistic. He's a freaking madman.
I'm Chris Nyland, and this is the Raw Knuckles Podcast. Anyway, great to have you today. Awesome that you come on with me. Listen, you do your own podcast. Obviously, I was on there, Full Change Podcast. How did that come about? And again, the characters you had on, obviously, Larry Melnick, James Patrick. Now, I played against Larry Melnick in Boston and New York.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I underestimated that guy, but I remember I fought him once in New York.
Yeah.
And he hit me with a left that I didn't realize was coming because I didn't think he could throw his left. And, man, he stunned me. He's a tough kid.
Oh, he is. He fought Dave Brown, same thing, right at Madison Square Garden, and gave it to Brownie pretty good. And you tell the look on Brownie's face, he's like, what the fuck? He didn't anticipate that happening.
Right?
Stuff.
Like, honest to God, I was so shocked when he hit me with that left. I'm like, God. And I never underestimated anybody. I always took everybody, guys that played the game tough, played hard. I always had that respect, but I just, for some reason, I didn't think, because he didn't fight a lot, right?
Yeah, I know.
And man, when he did, he could go. But anyway, so the podcast, how'd that come about?
Well, it first started, we were doing a live show when the pandemic started. I called up Gresh, Dave Maloney, and Ron Duguay, and I said, guys, let's jump on and do this show. We were just screwing around. And Duguay was in his bedroom. He had his his maid come in. It was this hot blonde.
Dukes had his the Playboy Mansion
totally.
bathrobe on.
We talked about the past, Studio 54, and this hilarious. Fans were calling us up, and we was like, they were going nuts. They thought it was fantastic. So it's funny. We then went to try to get more like professional people. Like we had Boomer Esiason on, we had Kenny Albert on, and they didn't draw many people at all because I guess everybody sees them all the time.
Yeah.
And then we had your buddy Nicky Fatil on, and we had like 10,000 hits on that show. So we were just fucking around, having fun, and James Patrick got in trouble a little bit. He was coaching the Winnipeg junior team, and he made some comments about the Winnipeg Jets, some of the guys being kind of bad apples, and the owners got all over him for it, so he had to cancel the show.
Wow, okay.
Dudes wanted to make money, so he got out of it.
Yeah.
Dave Maloney was having a ton of fun, but he's really built that brand where he's like a real professional guy and everything. So I think he kind of stepped back at one point and said, geez, what am I doing? Because he was really funny, really getting into it. So that kind of died, and then I met the guy, Tom Smith, that you met. Yeah. And he worked for Nickelodeon. She worked for Howard Stern's. So he said, let's do a more professional show like you're doing. So now we're doing that.
Cool, good stuff. That's awesome. I want to get back. You're from Brampton, Ontario, obviously. Yep. You and I, we're 2 months apart, I think. I was born in February '58. You were in April. Yep. So same draft year, all that. Growing up in Brampton, you grew up on the farm, right?
Yep.
Apparently.
Milton cows.
Milton cows. What type of impact did that have on your life as far as playing hockey and playing the National Hockey League and what you're doing today?
That's everything. I'm sure you probably too. You look back at your life now. You wrote a book, haven't you? Did you write a book?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just finishing writing a book. It's really forced me to look back at my life and that part of it, and my father and grandfather working on the farm. And I know you've talked about your father and his influence in your life. But they just every day milking the cows twice a day, doing things the right way. And when I played, as you know, I wasn't very talented at all. I knew I had to do my job and do it properly, and then coaches just counted on me to do it. So that was a big thing. Even when I got in the agent business after playing, it's the same thing. My clients had to know that I was going to be there every day for them and do my job properly, and that all came from the farm. So it's been a huge influence on me.
So your younger days playing hockey, growing up in Brampton, you played for the Bramalea Blues, was it, in the Met League?
Yeah.
Now, your last year there, you have a choice to make. You're either going to go play junior or you're going to go off to university. You end up going to Northern Michigan. How did that come about? Why being a Canadian kid? Because a lot of Canadian kids, the route is play junior, gonna get drafted, gonna go to the NHL. And back in that day, too, not as many kids were from Canada were going to college to play hockey.
No, they weren't. So the year before that, I'd been drafted. We had a really good year with Bramley Blues. We won the All-Ontario Junior B Championship. And so then I was drafted very highly in the OHL draft by Roger Nielsen, in the Peterborough Peaks.
Peterborough.
Yeah. So I went to training camp right after that year. So I was, 16, I think I was. And I was that little farm boy right off the farm. I was probably a good enough player to make the team. But really is more the social part. Like even, switching schools, I just felt so awkward. I just hadn't, I hadn't really. But it was funny because
you would have had to move away, right, from Brandon.
Yeah,
obviously, move to Peterborough, live with a family.
Yeah. And so it's a funny story when I first went to play with Bramley Blues, so it's junior B, so it's like 15, and these guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. In our farmhouse, we didn't have a shower. We just had a bathtub. So I'd never taken a shower before. So I go to this, when you're a kid, you go home and take a shower, bath at home, go shower at the rink. So now I'm playing with these junior B guys, and again, they're all out getting hammered, getting laid, and I'm this 15-year-old kid. I don't know how to shower. I got in the shower the first time, I still had soap all over me. And the guys are like, Laidlaw, what are you doing? Like, shower off. So that kind of stuff would happen to me. And I just didn't know what to do. So when I got to Peterborough, it was the same thing. Like I just was so much of a little kid still, just never been off the farm. So went back and played another year at Junior B, and then Rick Conley, he was starting the program in Northern Michigan, the coach up there, and he was smart. He went and got, I think it was 4 or 5 guys off our junior team. They were all together. So my parents were happy. I was getting a scholarship. I was happy. I was going up there with my buddies. There's no upperclassmen there, so I was going to play all the time. So it was where I just remember thinking, no, this is really, a unique opportunity for me.
Calling all hockey lovers. Upgrade your podcast experience by becoming an enforcer. Gain access to the greatest hockey doc ever, The Last Gladiators. And don't settle for ordinary. Join the Fight Club over on Patreon today. So, but Northern Michigan, how does that come about? They're like, were you recruited? Did they, were they watching you play Junior B? Or,
yeah,
and who was the coach who recruited?
Yeah, so Rick Conley, he was coaching at Lake Superior State at the time, and then he was out recruiting for us. But it's funny because Brown University was the other school that looked at me, and I was that typical rockhead in school. I wanted to do was play hockey. My grades were terrible. So I sent him my grades. I can't remember the coach's name, great guy. Calls me up and goes, Tom, we'd love to have you play here, but there's not much we can do with those grades. So that was
the Ivy League, right?
Yeah. And again, I was so naive. My parents didn't know anything. They've never been off the farm either. So they knew nothing. Again, they knew that I was going up there to get a scholarship. They didn't know about what the education was like or not like. And it was, listen, Northern Michigan is a great university. I call it the Harvard of the Midwest. So my grades were good enough to get in there. But it was a great experience. Like I was so fortunate, I had this Rick Hay coach me in junior with the Blues. Played a big role in my life. At certain times, I'm sure like you have to have people come into your life that help you. Rick Conley was like that in Northern Michigan where, I was fortunate. I was a 4-year captain because, again, there was nobody else there when we got there. So I was named captain my freshman year. So those kinds of things happened. I get to mature. Again, I was that wild kid, like at 18. I tell the story. I'm not proud of this at all, but I never seen anybody smoking pot before. I didn't ever see it on the farm. So we're up there probably 2 weeks into it and make an announcement over the loudspeaker in dorms. The 2 hockey players that got caught smoking pot. Now, I'm flipping out. I'm thinking it's like cocaine or heroin or whatever it is. And I just never seen it. And the guys are like, Tom, settle down. It's pot. It's the Midwest, it's the 70s, smoking pot. So about 2 weeks after that, I got the brilliant idea that I was going to buy a pound of pot and I was going to sell it. I was going to be a drug dealer. And so I get the pound of pot. I never sold any of it. I turned into an absolute pothead. And all I would do is and I didn't really enjoy myself. I'd get stoned and then I'd get a bag of those white powder donuts and they'd find me passed out under a tree someplace with the white powder all over me. So it actually was a great thing in that it scared the crap. And I went back home to Canada at Christmas and I thought, what have I done to myself? So, I smoked occasionally like everybody else did. College, but that was I look back at some of the stupid things I did, like again writing the book was so good, and it just at the time I think, oh, this is a good move, I should be doing this, but funny it's
funny when you do look back like that, right? When you're writing the book and you start looking at some things that you haven't really addressed or thought of in a long time, and you really have to dig deep to get into some of that stuff. But so you didn't want to go away to play junior, but you went away to Northern Michigan. What was the difference other than maybe you're living in a dorm as opposed to with a family?
Yeah.
What was the difference with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I was a year older, which was, something. But it was also, I was going up there with my buddies that I knew already from junior, 4 or 5 of them. And again, knowing that, the guys up there were all, like, again, you turn junior, as you know, I would have been 16. There are guys playing that are 20 years old. So I'd gotten used to that more playing with the Bramley Blues, that age difference. But then again, going up to Northern, that wasn't going to be the case. Most of the guys are going to be around my age, maybe a year or two older. So they're all buddies. And, like, given you're young like that, I'm hanging with my buddies. I'm going to be free, don't have to live at home. So it is funny looking back at it because there really wasn't much of a decision. It was like, this is what you do. I think my parents really wanted the education portion of it too, but didn't buy any books when I was up there.
Well, that might have helped you later in life when you retired. But so you drafted 78. We were drafted the same year. You were drafted 93rd overall. I was drafted 231 overall. I was behind you quite a ways. But
what'd you think the day you're drafted? I mean, I think we talked about it on the podcast, but
here's the deal. I didn't know I was getting drafted. Did you have an idea you were getting drafted?
No, not at all. No.
You had no idea. I was in a bar, a college bar, called the Cask and Flagon with a teammate of mine, Mike Sanford. And we're in the front bar. There's a couple of them. There's one in the back and TVs and all that. And we had kind of just walked in, and one of the guys says to me, "Hey, congratulations on their what?" The bartender. And they're what? What do you mean, congrats? He said, "You were drafted by the Montreal Canadiens." I said, "No way. What are you talking about?" So it was just on the sports. He said, "Maybe go." He said, "Let me switch the station and see if it didn't come on yet on the other sports." So we went from channel 7 to 4, say, and he put 4 on. The sports was just coming on. And sure enough, they said there were 5 kids from the local colleges in Boston that were drafted. I was one of them. Anyway, I was shocked. I was like, I couldn't believe it. And I was a little bummed out because it wasn't the Bruins. But that's how I found out. Then I got a letter 2 weeks later from the Canadiens inviting me to camp.
Well, that's funny. Did you know the draft was going on that day?
I had no idea.
Yeah, same here.
Right?
Yeah, I was cleaning horse shit out of horse stalls in Guelph, Ontario. It's a breeding farm. My buddy's hat, and so I was working for them cleaning the stall. They called so the Rangers had called my father. He then called the farm. Obviously, no cell phones. So I went up to the farmhouse. He says, "You've been just got a call from the Rangers. You were drafted in 6th round, where it was by the Rangers." And I said, "What do I do now?" She says, "Go back out there and finish cleaning the shit out of the stalls." That was my draft day. So it's funny because then years later, I'm an agent. So now you're going to the draft. You got the suits on, the whole bit, and the same thing. Like the Rangers had called to tell my dad that they picked me, but I didn't hear from him for months. I finally called him up, like, "What's going on? What is it?" It was Mike Nicklick or whatever was one of the assistant GMs.
Mike Nicklick or Nicklick.
I said, "What do I do?" He's kind of like mad at me. He says, "What do you mean, what do you do? Get back up to play hockey in Northern. We'll let you know when we want you," kind of mentality. So it was like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, it was crazy. I got invited to training camp, and I'm like, what if I say no?
Yeah.
Are they going to, there was no, I didn't have an agent, right? I get the letter, and then what if I say no? Are they going to have me back the next year? Or are they going to say, "Screw, you didn't come to our camp. We're not going to have you back"? So I had no idea. I ended up staying in school one more year. My dad didn't want me to leave school. He said, "Chances are you're not going to make that team. You can stay in school, get your education." I stayed one more year and left. But needless to say, we both end up in the same place, and that was the American Hockey League in 79, 80, that first training camp. And you only played one game. I played 49. What was that first training camp like? Because I always go back to my first training camp, and it's like, man, I was so intimidated.
Yeah.
Because here I am coming into a situation. One, the NHL, it's a big leap. But then the Canadiens just come off of winning 4 Stanley Cups in a row. And I'm like, I don't have a chance in hell, but I'm gonna give my best and see what happens. But
Well,
what was that like for you, that first camp?
I was really lucky at the end of my senior year. We had a really good team, played in the national championship game, lost in North Dakota. And then so I really played well. So the Rangers had planned on signing me at the end of the year. And I was going to go to New Haven and play in the playoffs with New Haven. So I did that. And that was great for me because I really, that was the first, as you know, like I didn't know anything about the pro hockey. There's no internet or whatever, so there's nothing to know. So I went in there at the end of the season, played I think 1 or 2 preseason games, then the playoffs, or 1 or 2 regular season games, then the playoffs. So I really got my feet wet, came back, went back to Marquette, Michigan, where the school was, and really got myself in great shape. I was jacked, running the hills and all that, because I knew, in those days too, as you know, the old players, they would not do anything during the summer. They would come in.
Yeah, you went to camp to get in shape, right?
Yeah, drinking beer. I said to Walt Kachuk one time, first training camp, I said, "Walt, what do you do all summer?" He says, "I drink a case of beer every day." So I think, so all right, so I'm in good shape. Well, the funny thing was we had a scrimmage 2 or 3 days into it. And, with the older guys, they're not in shape yet, so there's not a lot of hitting going on. So Phil Esposito, one of the greatest players ever, skated through the neutral zone at Rye Playland that you practiced at. Yeah. And he's got his head down. So now I'm this big kid, big farm boy that's supposed to hit everybody. I'm thinking, okay, I've got to hit him. Knocked him.
Was this training camp? Yeah. First camp. Yeah.
Knocked him on his ass. Phil Esposito. And the building went quiet. He got up and he was hot. You mother this, you mother that. And it's one of those moments I'm thinking, what did I do? Like I've jumped all my life getting here. And now I just knocked Phil Esposito down. He's pissed at me. So things settle down. We go into the locker room after practice. He comes walking over to me. I go, God, am I going to have to fight Phil Esposito in the locker room for God's sakes? And he's still kind of mad, but he comes over. He says, you want to make this team pretty bad, don't you? I said, yeah, Phil, I've dreamed all my life of doing this. And he says, okay. I respect you for that. Just don't do it again. So, it actually turned out to be a good thing. But that was one of those moments I'm sure you had it too, when you start like, again, there's so much on the line. Like I can't believe I'm here. I got a shot at making the New York Rangers, and now I'm knocked Phil Esposito on his ass. So,
my first camp. That's why I'm like, I'm not going to skate through everybody with the puck and score goals. I better play physical. And certainly growing up watching the Bruins, that had a huge impact on the way I played hockey, So I just said, I'm going to hit everybody I can hit. I'm going to finish my checks. And I remember I hit Guy Lapointe behind the net. He had the puck. He was coming around with the puck, and I hit him. I hit him with a great check. I'm skating back up the ice, and all of a sudden I get a two-hander across my arm. Steve Shutt. Oh. Of all people, Shutty, goal scorer. Yeah. And he says to me, hey, kid, don't be fucking hitting the veterans. And I'm, fuck off. And I slashed him back. But then the refs came in and broke it up. I wasn't going to fight Shutty, but I thought I might have had to. Sure. But the refs came in and broke it up. But I learned pretty quickly to leave the veterans alone. And then you become one and you're like, fucking leave me alone. Yeah, don't come near me. Right?
I had Dave and Don Maloney both on the team, too. And Dave's got a little anger management issues. So he wasn't on the ice. He was in street clothes on the side of the rink. And I spanked Donnie pretty good, too. The brother knocked him down. And Dave starts yelling at me from the side. It's like, you're going to
leave my brother alone.
Yeah. So it was, but you're right. The same as you, I just thought, okay, I can't stick handle. I'm not going to score a goal, so I'm going to hit. And if the guys are mad at me, all right, that's, so it ended up being a good thing because, same as you, I'm sure your teammates respected you for it too and showed how much you want to make the team.
Yeah, and listen, I haven't played against you. Listen, you were a solid defenseman. You were. You say I wasn't offensive, and you weren't. But you need all types when it comes to winning hockey games. Yeah. And you were a really good defender, and you could move the puck out of the zone. And listen, today that'll get you 3.5? Yeah, probably. Easily. So,
that's what you bring that up because people always ask, like, you mad you didn't make the money that the guys are making now? And I said, listen, I got divorced twice, so the first wife would have got half of it, and the next wife would have got half of the other half. So, right. So. It'd be just the same. I'd be in the same spot. Yeah. You know what's funny, Max? You know what's funny though? It's interesting talking to you too because I honestly thought when I was in college, and I'm not joking when I say this, I really thought I was the toughest guy on the planet. I really did. They had an exhibition boxing match. Muhammad Ali came up. and they had me working security. I'd never forget, it, his yellow T-shirt on, and he came walking by me, and I'm thinking, I'm smoking him. I can take him out.
I could knock him out.
Yeah, totally.
If he's not looking.
It's funny. Like, and then when I got to the NHL, I showed I could fight, but I got there and I realized, okay, there's you, there's the whole team up in Boston, there's Clark Gillies and Bob Nystrom, there's Paul Holmgren and you know all these guys, Paul Holmgren and Ben Wilson, everybody else in Philly, and I think, so okay, well, I can fight, but do I want to? Like, this is one of the reasons I admire you so much. Like, to do it every game, or to be at least be expected to do it every game. It's like, oh my God, I was just not that. Luckily, when Herb Brooks came along, he didn't want me fighting anymore. I fought a few in the first year, but he wanted me to make sure I was there for my teammates. But because for me, being that defensive defenseman, I really had to control my emotions and think out there. And I get so wound up wanting to be in a fight that you just lose all that. Seriously, that's really why I admire guys like you.
That's the thing. Listen, teammates you could count on, and you could be counted on. You don't have to fight all the time to be counted on as a teammate, for sure. And you were one of those guys. There's no question about it.
Let me ask you a question, though. Like, when you were fighting all the time, let's say there's other guys that was a big guy, it could fight but didn't fight too often. Did you ever get down on him thinking, like, listen, I'm out here getting my brains beat and you should be out here helping me? Did you ever
Not a whole lot. I honestly, with any team I played, I relish my role. I love sticking up for my teammates and doing that. I actually looked at it the other way. When John Corder came, I was like, I don't need help. I don't want help, because what's the fear? The fear is you're going to lose your job.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So I'm like, I could care less if he came in. I wanted to do it on my own. And I knew that I had other teammates that if I was in trouble, they'd be there in a heartbeat. Larry Robinson, Chelios, Mike McPhee, Brian Screw. I had teammates that was enough for me. I didn't need somebody to ride shotgun with me, and a lot of that was my own insecurities. Sure, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to lose my job to someone. And that's a scary thing as you get older, doing that job too, right?
Yeah.
It's really difficult. But your time, certainly with the Rangers, like I said, you played the one game in New Haven, then the playoffs, and away you go. And that was at a time in the 80s, man, that shit's happening in New York, right? Studio 54, all the craziness. Cocaine was huge at that time. And the Rangers were huge at that time, right? With Phil leading the charge, Dukes comes to town, Murdoch comes to town.
Yeah, they got into the finals and got into the finals in '79. Right before I got there, yeah.
Right, just before you get there, and what was that like in the city? I mean, the Rangers were hot at that time, right? Like, again, the Rangers are a really good team. They're in a great position now as far as a playoff team every year. But back then, they were it in New York.
Yeah, they really were. Yeah, I remember one of the first games we were on the bench. And Duke was on the bench, and as the game got going, he was starting to sweat. I could smell coconuts on the bench. And because he had the conditioner in his hair. And I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. I mean, Madison Square Garden. And the old guys, like Carol Vadney was great to me, showing me pointers and everything. He was just ending his career. And he was really good because I was one of the guys coming in to take his job, but he knew so they're always giving me advice and everything. And then, so I'm on the bus one night after a game, and Dukes is right behind me. And I heard, like, Duke, as you know, Duke's a great guy. But he talks way more now than he ever did. He just didn't talk back then. So he taps me on the shoulder, and I think, Jesus, he's going to give me advice now, And this is amazing. I should get like the tape recorder out or something to tape this. And so he says, Tom, sleep is overrated. You only need 2 hours of sleep every night. And then he sat back down again. That was it. It was. You know what, though? The guys were really dedicated, but it was party. I'm sure the whole league was like that, too. But in New York, my parents came in. Well, I'll tell you this story. You're not G-rated on the show, are you?
What's that?
You're not G-rated on the shore.
No. Come on, let it fly.
So, your buddy Ron Greshner. So we're in this place called Orrin and Reski's we used to go to all the time after games. Place on the Upper East Side. And so I'm talking to these 3 girls. He's not there. I'm thinking I'm Mr. Big Shot. I'm in the National Hockey League talking to these 3 girls. They're all hot. So he comes walking over, and I think I'm going to do Ron a favor. I'm going to introduce him to these girls. So I said, oh, everybody, this is Sue, Beth, whatever your names are. This is Ron Greshner. He looks at me and goes, Tom, this isn't my first time in the bar. So he's known these girls for intimately for quite a while. So yeah, it was fun. Though. Man, some of the stories. I lived with Chris Katsopoulos my rookie year.
Cotsy.
So, yeah, and we lived up in Dave Maloney's place, which was a huge mistake for Dave because that place got trashed. And we'd go out in the city, and we'd go around to all the girls telling them, listen, Ron Duguay's coming to our party up at our place. So everybody have like 20 girls show up at our place at like 2 a.m. And he of course, wasn't showing up. And but there's always some girls that will stay behind. So we'd go in the next morning and go, thank you, Dukes. We had another fun time last night because of you.
Yeah, the Dukes, the girls certainly love them, still do.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So that team, and Murdoch was before you, but that team was starting to get older and they were starting to make some changes.
Yep.
Certainly, the first 2 years, some success in the playoffs. You played 14 playoff games, first 80, 81, then 81, 82. You played in 10 playoff games. How were those first couple of years for you? Were you like, we get a shot at some point here to get a Stanley Cup because, there was some playoff games there for the Rangers.
Yeah. Well, that was a really interesting time because it started off, Freddie Shero was my first coach, and he got fired, about halfway through the year.
Through your first year.
Yes. So I thank him. I know his son, Ray, excuse me, and I always thank him all the time because he got me to start and he believed in me in the National Hockey League. But that first year we went to the finals. When they ranked the teams 1 through 16, one played 16, second played 15 on.
Yeah.
So we played the LA Kings and they'd had a really good season. And we had a big, tough physical team. Barry Beck, Chris Katsopoulos, Eddie Hosbar, myself. Another guy's like Carol Vadney was nasty out there. So we went there. We beat them the first game in LA. Actually, I watched some of the old games. Then we had a huge brawl right at the end of the first period. So everybody's on the ice. A bunch of guys got thrown out, and so I think we kind of scared them a little bit. And they didn't really have. They had Rick Chartrand. He was kind of by himself. Dave Taylor was there, but they did not. And I should be careful because Jay Wiles was there. He was just young, getting going. Yeah. So we beat them one game in LA. They won the next game. Then we went and won 2 games. Back in New York, so won that series. So kind of like, wow, we didn't have a great season, but we can really do something. We then beat St. Louis, who was another good team. Then, like typically for us, when I was getting really my whole career with the Rangers, was the Islanders were right in the middle of winning their cups. They're on their way to the second cup. So we played them in the third round, the semifinals, and I think we were just totally. Just too much respect for them. You need to respect your opponent, but we just, they'd won the first cup and, they were on a roll and I think we lost four straight. So, but still we thought, man, we got a pretty good team here. But then Craig Patrick was running the team. He brought Herb Brooks in to coach my second year, and Herb changed around everybody, got rid of a lot of the big fighters.
The older guys too.
Yeah. And then brought in Mark Pavlich, Rob McClan, and Rare Root Selene, and skilled players. And you know what, though? We were smaller and not as physical, but those guys were really character guys. We played against Philly, and Philly tried to beat them up and everything. They didn't back down one bit. So we still had a very competitive team, just a totally different team. But again, same thing. We're just playing the Islanders all the time. We ultimately, in '84, lost to the Islanders the first round, but it was a best of 5 series. And we were up in the series 2-1 playing in Madison Square Garden, and should have won Game 4. We didn't. We go back to the Long Island and we lose in overtime. Kenny Morrow scored the winning goal in overtime. It's just and we had Clark Gillies on one of our shows, and he said, "Listen, if you guys hadn't won the cup, we talked about it. We thought if you guys had beat us, we thought you guys could have won the cup that year." So it was kind of nice to hear that. But in the other way, it's like, oh God, like we were that good. Like we really were like good teams. It wasn't just the skill level. We had guys like Larry Patey, who was like a good fourth line guy. Guys filling in certain spots. Maybe it wasn't like the overall most talented team we had, but real competitive team. So yeah, it's just like you look back and you think. Yeah, even when they won in '94, I remember thinking to myself, part of me was jealous, part of me was happy for them because I'm thinking how great it would have been to win in New York. Like you get on a roll, you played at the Garden, you played at Montreal Forum too. It's the same thing. The atmosphere was unbelievable. So, yeah, it was. You kind of look back, God, I didn't win a cup, but it still was a great career. But that would have been fun. Yeah,
and again, so many great players, and I talk about this to a lot of guys who come on and haven't won. And I'm so fortunate, Tom, to have gotten that one Stanley Cup. And I say that, and it's funny, living up here in Montreal, people say, how many cups you got? And I go, 1. They go, only 1? I'm like, fuck you, only 1. If you knew what it took to get that one. But my first year, if I had left school and came, chances are I would have been with the team and it would have been the fourth in a row. So I might have got a cut my first year.
Sure.
I didn't. I stayed in school. My last year, 92, 91, 92, I retire, 92. 92, 93, Montreal wins the Stanley Cup. So can you imagine if I don't win that cup we don't win it that year in 85, 86? In the beginning and the tail end of my career, I could have won a cup and I would have that probably would have haunted me the rest of my life, right?
I know.
Why did I leave school that 1 year earlier, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, believe me, I'm grateful and fortunate. But so that time with the Rangers, what was the whole deal, New York, the nightlife that, like, did you get married right away? Were you married young, or when did you get married? And did you get a chance to experience New York and the city that never sleeps?
Well, like a typical dum-dum. I got married, like my fifth or sixth year in the league, were you married when you were playing?
Yeah, my second year. I don't
know about you, but if I was to recommend anybody playing in the NHL, I would say don't get married. And it's nothing against the women involved. It's just, right?
I'll tell you, I have one teammate, Rick Green, was single his entire career. He got married when he retired. He got married, retired, got married, and had kids after he lived his life.
Chris, we're so, I hate to say it, but we have to be selfish to be playing in the National Hockey League. You have to be so wrapped up in your career. It's totally unfair to anybody else, kids, wife, girlfriend, whatever, because you just, and I thought back, something I felt bad about, I got my sons in my first marriage. I divorced twice, so I'm happy about that. Got my children.
Yeah.
But, and at first for a while there, I felt bad for the ex-wife. Like, geez, it must have been terrible to her. But I thought, if I wasn't like that, I don't think I would have survived in the National Hockey League. Right? It was just, you had to be so possessed about your career. So it was, no, but I still had lots of time to enjoy myself. And this is not something to brag about, but even being married, I mean, I wish I could look back and say I was a better husband, but I wasn't. I very honest, but it's not right. I'm not bragging about it. It's some ways you kind of ashamed
I hear you.
Yeah. But it was, and then getting traded to Los Angeles.
Yeah, you go from one great city to another great city if you want that life. I remember, listen, when I get to the Rangers, okay, I'm 28 years old. I think I was at the time, 28. And I remember, like, I got hurt my second game, hurt my knee, or third game, something like that. Anyway, I remember some nights we would go to Fleming's after the game.
Yep.
We'd go to Cronies.
Yep.
And then we'd go to Fleming's. And 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm going, what the hell am I doing here? I got to get the hell home. So I end up going back to, I'm telling you, that city just, and it's true, it never sleeps. You get going there, like at Fleming's, I don't know how many times, and I said to myself, you know what, I got to stop this. This is like, it's too much. I can't go here after the game, and if I do, I better get the hell out of here quickly.
But it's so funny because it's so much fun, right? Because as you know, you don't get out of the rink until 11 o'clock or whatever it is after a game. You had a couple of beers in the locker room because there's beer in the locker room back then. So now the boys are all going out together, and that was one of the great things about being an NHL hockey player. Is you're with all your buddies, and you're going out and in your suits and a whole bit. You're just like a pack of guys, and all of a sudden you're right. It's 4 o'clock when you blink an eye, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you got to get home for practice and everything. But and I tell these stories, I'm sure you do too. And it's like, wow, like you beat up your body that way. Would you have been a better player if you didn't drink beer all the time? And I try to tell them, I don't think so, because it was the whole culture thing. Like, we talk about beer so much, but it wasn't just the beer. It was the guys all being together was the big thing. So, and I love that. I was that kind of guy. I'm sure you were too, where, if guys are going out. But when I got to LA, the owner of the team, Bruce McNall, he'd come to me after the game on the road. He'd hand me like $2,000 in cash. And he'd say, Tommy, take all the boys out for beer. So that's who I had become.
Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah.
Would you sell a stamp?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I used to call him Brucey Big Bucks too. He was funny. He was big buck.
Are you ready to take your love for hockey to the next level? Join the Fight Club Raw Knuckles exclusive Patreon to unlock amazing perks like ad-free episodes, bonus interviews, and even a chance to win a game day experience with me in the Habs Cave. Don't miss out on this ultimate hockey experience. when we won the Cup in '86, I remember we had a bunch of rookies that came in that year, and watching and being in some of the regular season games, I was seeing they're always wanting or waiting for Larry to do it or Bob to do it or somebody else to do it. So and it's funny, Brian Shrulin tells this story. I took 6 or 7 of them in the room, video room, and I said, "Hey guys, I want to talk to you about something." I said, "Listen, Larry Robinson, Bob Gainey, Stanley Cups they've won here. It's unbelievable what they've done. Okay, they're getting older. They are older." I said, "It seems like every night we're waiting for them to do it, and we, including me, we have to step up and take a more important role with this team and help these guys. They're still going to be able to get shit done for us, but it's almost like every night we're waiting for them to do it." And boy, things changed and guys really started stepping up and playing. I'm not saying it to take credit for it, because I was one too when I came here. Oh, they'll do it. They'll get it. I mean, my friend, they won 4 Stanley Cups in a row. And I come in, we're going for number 5. We end up losing to Minnesota that year, game 7 in overtime. But it was like, I remember yeah, they'll get it done. They'll get it done. I was kind of at times a spectator thinking, okay, I'll just go do my thing and I'll play my shift and that. No, you gotta bring something, and that's easy to do. It's kind of like that. You're on a 2-on-1, and you're with a veteran player. You feel like you have to give him the puck. Right?
Wayne was definitely like that, and that wasn't his fault at all. But yeah, it was the same way when he first came to the team. I was a veteran player by then. Played against him a number of times and everything. So, but I was still like, I've got to get the puck to Wayne. And I think he recognized it. We were all doing it. And I think he finally said something to all of us. Like, he said it in a really good way too. It's like, hey guys, listen, you guys, if you have a chance to go with the puck, go with the puck. You don't have to get it to me right away. But it was, I remember the first time we were in our zone, the old defenseman player wired around the boards and the winger on the boards gets it. And Wayne was on the boards. And I'm not saying this is a disparaging thing towards him at all. It's just not part of his game. So I wired around the board. So Wayne will get it out. And the defenseman comes barreling down, runs over Wayne. I'm like, okay, I guess Wayne can't do everything. Yeah. But it is true, right? Because you're a young player, you just defer to those older guys, especially guys like the Larry Robinsons. I just like the historic,
like crazy Guy Lafleur. I was like, go ahead, guys, get it done. Yeah. So, Tom, L.A., you play 89-90, your last season there, and you went to Phoenix the next year, played 4 games, then you retire. What went on there, and was it – listen, I know you had issues with your back, but what was it that you said, listen, enough for me, or were you pushed out the door?
Well, a little bit of both. I still had, I think, 2 years left on a contract, so I was trying to come back, but again – looking back, I was an idiot. I just didn't change anything. Like, I saw Zdeno Chara before he retired, how he would continually change his training program because he was getting older. And I thought, man, it's like, I was just so stubborn. But again, my stubbornness is why I played in the NHL, but it's also the reason I, didn't play longer, because I just didn't change the way I was doing things. Still, I was working hard, but same old mentality. I didn't stretch enough. I didn't work in core enough, like we talked before. So it was, they sent, Tommy Webster was coach at the time. And again, I got along with all my coaches. Do you know Cap Rader?
Yep.
Yeah,
I know
Cap's
who
a
he
good
is.
guy too.
Yep.
He was coaching, so was
University of New Hampshire. He was a goalie, right?
Yeah, really good guy. He was great with me personally and professionally. He was great with me. So there was Cap Rader, Rick Wilson, and Tom Webster was the head coach. And this is typical of me, and I tell the story because it just wasn't, I so ashamed myself when I did. So we were in between periods, and I made a mistake on the ice, and rightfully so. Cap was showing the video and pointing out what I should have done. No problem. That's what a coach is supposed to do, right? He wasn't doing it in a derogatory way. He was actually very complimentary towards me, because Tom, you usually don't do this. But here's what we need to clean up. Well, I turned on him, and I got pissed at him. Like, what the fuck, whatever it said. Like, I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was right in front of the whole team too, in between periods. And I'm sitting there, and as the words are coming out of my mouth, what am I doing? It's not me.
Can't take this back.
Yeah. And so I paused for a second. The coaches went into the room, and I was like sitting there going, what? who am I? Like, I'm just ashamed of myself. I never acted like that.
Yeah.
You know, if I had a problem with the coach, I'd go in the private room someplace and have a problem privately. So I went in and saw Cap in, and he was almost in tears because of what I'd said. I said, listen, whatever you want me to do, you want me to apologize in front of the team? I was 100% wrong. Shouldn't have done what I just did. And he was good about it. He knew that I was very frustrated, but still, it was just totally inappropriate. But that kind of stuff was happening at the end for me. And again, in and out of the lineup again. And again, like we talked.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. That was awful. I hated that.
Right.
You know, same thing. I would get the hamstring pop and all kinds of stuff's going on. And, you know, and the team was a good team. Wayne was there. It was, we were the life of it was New York and then LA. It was two of the greatest places to play. And so I came to training camp. I came to training camp. No. During that last year, they'd sent me to Phoenix. And did you ever play in the minors? Like after you?
Just the first year, no.
Yeah, okay. So when I went back there, it's so fun. So you're so used to in the NHL, as you know, the winger coming under your zone, he comes to the hash mark, gets ready for a pass. It's automatic. Yeah. You don't even have to look most of the times in the NHL. Yeah. So we go to the minors, and I do that in the minors, and there's nobody there.
No idea.
And it's funny. I kept making mistakes all the time. They finally came back to the bench, and the guys are going, "Did you play in the NHL?"
Yeah, I used to have wingers available for the puck.
Yeah. So again, it gets so frustrating. That year ended where I was in and out. I said I had hurt my back when I went down to the minors, so I was just they had me doing the radio work, which I really enjoyed. And I was with Nick Nixon. I was doing the color commentating, so that was fun. Then I came back to training camp the next year. I actually passed the physical, but I couldn't skate. Every time I skated, it was just
too much. So you end up walking away from the game. Listen, some guys struggle. I have my struggles. Some guys seem to make that seamless transition. You went right away into being a player agent. Yeah. How the hell does that happen now? Did you have any formal training in that over the years or nothing? And how'd that come about?
Yeah. At the end, I think I did my last contract, but that was Bruce McNall's the owner. He basically go up to his office and said, Bruce, this is what I want. He said, okay. That was a negotiation. So there's a great guy, Larry Roush, who's passed away now.
I know Larry. I got to tell you the story.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So he asked me to be a recruiter for him. We known each other from New York. I'd flown from LA out to New York, spent the weekend with him, and said, okay, yeah, we're going to do this. On the flight back from New York to LA, I started thinking to myself, like, you know, my father made a transition when we sold our farm. He became a firefighter. So I thought, thinking about those things, how it seemed with him, I'm sure it was hard for him to do, but it was kind of that brave thing. He's got a young family. He's making that decision. You don't know how it's going to turn out. So I always admired him for that. I'm thinking, why am I going to work for somebody else? Like, I'm going to do this myself. I'll teach myself the things I need to learn, like the collective bargaining agreement. I do look back and I think I say to myself, okay, I'm glad I was smart enough to know what I was doing. If I was any smarter, I would have scared myself to death and not done
it.
Yeah, because I look back now and I didn't know anything. So it was, I was lucky. They took the last 2 years of my contract, spread that out over 5 years, so I had a source of income. And then, I got on the run. I started reading books. Mark McCormick ran IMG, so I bought his books. It was things you don't learn at the Harvard Business School, and there's a couple other books, and were really very insightful. Like, more than anything, what it did was it made it look like I learned now, like through motivational speaking. Sometimes you look at that daunting task ahead of you, and you get intimidated by that task. But instead of looking at the whole big task, look at the first thing. And McCormick is really big on this. Write a list of the things you need to do to accomplish that big task. And then just look at the next thing on the list and get it done. And then get the next thing done. And he said that. And that really sunk in with me. And I just started doing that. I saw a big guy on lists. So I had to, like most players, I never booked a hotel, a rental car, or a flight. It's always done by the teams. So I had to do that all myself. The recruiting, I was lucky because I just played, so I knew a lot of people in the game. So as far as recruiting, I got a lot of names of people. Glenn Hanlon, great guy. He was scouting for Washington. I think at the time there's a young goaltender that they had drafted, and we were out, I think, in someplace out west, Seattle or something, at a game. So I'm with Glenn outside after the game. The young player had just played. He comes out of the locker room, and he's like a 8th or 9th round pick. And Glenn says to me, he says, "Do you have an agent?" The kid goes, "Yes, I do." And he goes, "Well, no, you don't have that agent. This is your new agent here." That really wasn't the right way to do things, but that's how I got my first client.
And then 20 years you did this, right?
Yeah, it really went well for me. I just, part of it was that I didn't make a lot of money. I had a young family at home, and it was fear. I said, I can't just sit and go golfing. I've got to get to work here. So, I'd go out to Western Canada, spend 10 days out there, and I would pack, because it's my money I'm spending now. So I'm staying at the Motel 6, renting little cars, and it's cold out there. You got to plug your car in, and you're at the rink in the hotels because it's so cold. But it was, it was my business. It was my passion. I spent a lot of time with John Davidson, who was very successful after the game, probably more successful after the game. Actually, when I was doing the broadcasting, and it was, he said to me, he said, Tom, I loved my career as a player. I was very proud of it. He said, but I don't think I got everything out of my career that I could have. But I'm not going to let that happen again in my broadcasting career. So that, he wanted to be the best, and even he worked at being the best.
Yeah, he was awesome. I love JD.
Yeah, my first year of the agent business, the draft, I believe, was in Montreal. Montreal, Quebec, I can't remember. So as you know, at the draft, if you're an agent and you have like a top ranked player, you're down closer to where the ice would be, when it gets called up. So I didn't have anybody. So the seat they gave me was literally the last
press
row.
box.
No, not in the press box. It was the last row. Like, my head was hitting the rafters, and I was pissed. Like, I'm thinking, I just played in the National Hockey League, and here I am sitting up here in the last row. I am
humbling.
It was one of the best things too, because it just drove me. Like, I did not want to. It wasn't even about the money. It was more, I want to be down on that floor with a first round draft pick. And ultimately, like, I think it was like 3 or 4 years later, I had my first round draft pick. It was actually Ryan Smith, played out in Moose Jaw. Yeah, and that was pretty cool. And then ultimately, I had Brian Berard, was first overall pick in the draft.
Awesome.
So I had my own business.
How many guys over the years did you represent? Say 20 years.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say on my own, it's got to be 50 or 60 guys. I never had a big stable of guys. I worked for IMG for 5 years. Mike Barnett, I represented Wayne Gretzky. He was working with IMG, and he would see me. Obviously, we knew each other from LA, and then he'd see me on the road all the time. He goes, "Man, Tom, you're working your ass off. You're really doing well." And again, you know what? It's funny. I didn't, going back to the book thing and my father and grandfather, it wasn't even like a conscious effort to work hard. It was just, I just knew, that's all I knew. That my father and grandfather would get up. There's nobody else to milk the cows. So they had to milk the cows. They get up when they're sick. They get up when they're tired. So that's all I knew in my life. And I just was picking up what they'd show me to do. And they really never even talked about it. It was just what they did all the time. So I had that mentality already into me. And actually, it's funny, my first ex-wife, we obviously were still married at the time. She came to me at one point when things were really going well. She goes, "Man, you're unbelievable. I didn't anticipate that this was going to go this way." Because financially it was going well, And so it was that was a blast. That was really.
Did she want you back?
No,
no.
That money's all gone now. So, I think what it was is. It's that pride thing too that kicks in about wanting to be good at. But that was fun. Went through a lot of things that I didn't anticipate. Brian Berard losing his eye in an accident up in Ottawa when he was playing for Toronto. Sheldon Kennedy was a young boy that came to me and asked me to represent him. He was sexually abused by his junior coach. Like, going through those kinds of things, I didn't anticipate that. Other personal things with players were divorces and everything. Yeah, so you really, what was, Chris, too, I'm sure you're the same way. You want to, I don't know if you sit down and actually say it to yourself, but you want to be known as a certain kind of person, right? Like you never back down from anybody. You're a team player. Like, that's a decision you make, whether you're consciously making it or not. That's how you decide you want to live your life as a person, as a player. For me, it was, I did not want to be known as a liar or some cheat, something like that. If I told somebody the truth, when I never told them, that would be the truth. And that has to build up over time. Eventually, I had a GM, he's in St. Louis, Doug Armstrong, and I had a player who was a free agent, and you try to build up as much interest as you can. So now you got leverage with teams that are trying to sign him. So again, some guys will just lie and say, "I got 10 teams that are chasing around." Well, they wouldn't have. So I said to him, "Listen, we're talking to 3 or 4 different teams. Obviously, I don't have a contract done yet, or wouldn't be here talking to you." And he goes, "You know what, Tom? You have never lied to me, so I believe what you're saying. I wouldn't do that with other agents, but you always told me the truth." And when he said that to me, I was like, "Wow, that's pretty cool." Like, I've worked a long time to build that reputation. So that was fun business.
What I got to ask you, so the 20 years of being an agent, what makes you step away from that? Were you burnt out in the recruiting part of it?
Recruiting.
Chasing.
Yeah. So one year the year I had Brian Berard's first overall pick, Wade Redden was the second overall pick. And he had said to me, he said, I want you to represent me as well. And then ultimately, another person involved said, no, you can't go Laidlaw, you've got to go with another agent. And there's inducements going on. The next year I had another player, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Chris Phillips. They had formally committed, but he was first overall pick. Another agent came along and bought him a car. So those kinds of things were happening. And I'm not going to do that. I want people to pick me because they know I'm the right agent for them. Yeah. And then the recruiting age, when I first had Brian Berard, for example, he was a 16-year-old when I got him first. And again, he was projected to be first overall pick in the draft. It got down to the point where it's at now, where it's like these kids are 12 or 13 years old and they're committing agents.
It's crazy.
I know.
Yeah, chasing it.
Yeah. So I'd gotten away from that recruiting part of young kids. And another former player was coaching in Detroit. He was coaching that Cam Fowler that plays in Anaheim. And he says, Tom, you got to come out here to see the kid. I think he was only 13 or 14 years old at the time. He says, you got to come out here and see him. And I said, okay, I'll go see him. So I was out there, I'm sitting at the game watching him and getting along well with the dad a whole bit. And another, Ricky Olchuk, who I didn't know that well, but it was funny. He knew how I was with recruiting, and he comes walking by me. He goes, what the fuck are you doing here in Laidlaw? Because it was these young kids. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, what am I doing?
Made you think a little bit?
Yeah, because it's just it's creepy, these young kids. And plus, it's a terrible business model because who knows, like in 6 or 7 years, these kids may not even be playing hockey, and you're spending all this time and money and resources on this player. So
Larry Roush, right? Larry Roush.
Yes.
So I got drafted. I'm at a bar called Boston, a disco. And who's in there? Brad Park. So I go up to see Brad Park. I want to meet him. Right? Hey, Brad, how you doing? I play at Northeastern. I got drafted by the Canadians last year. He said, oh, here's my agent, Larry Roush. Meet Larry. Hey, Larry, how you doing? I said, geez, I need an agent. Do you think you could? When were you drafted? I said, I was drafted in the 17th round. He said, you'll be all right. You just go to camp. You'll be fine, right? Like, he wanted nothing to do with me. Like, I can see you later, kid. So I go to Montreal, I have my thing. I have no agent. I find one in Boston through Bobby Orr. And then, I don't know, 6 years in, I'm on the Cape playing in a charity softball event. Jay Miller, all the guys, a bunch of NHL guys there. Larry Roush is there. So I'm heading back up to Boston after the thing. And Larry says to me, hey, can I catch a ride with you up to Boston, Chris? I got a flight, blah, blah, blah. I'm there, sure. I'll give you a ride up. So boom, he jumps in. We drive. All the way up, he fucking tried to get me to sign with him. He said to me, I know you got, I said, Larry, you're barking up the wrong fucking tree. I am a loyal fucking person. And I had Dan Ray, you know Dan Ray, and I said this to him. I said, you know Dan Ray. And I said, this guy was with me from the beginning, and I will not. He said, I'll get you more money than Dan will. I'll get you better. I'm there, Larry. It's not happening. So I love you. And I had a great relationship with him, but he tried so fucking hard. I wouldn't hear it. And
see, that's the part.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Good man, Larry.
Yeah, no disrespect to Larry or any other agent out there, but that's the part I hated. Like when you say stuff, dude, I'll get you more money. Because really, it's the player gets the money based on his play. It's the agent's job just to go out and get that money. So that's the stuff I tried to stay away from. I never wanted it. And if a kid didn't want to go with me, I didn't. Like at first, Brian Berard went with another agent. He ended up going to jail or something like that.
Yeah.
And when the family had called me, Mrs. Berard, she's tough. She just passed away. She's a huge heart, but she was tough. And she called me up and said, Tom, we've decided. She was very nice. She didn't send me a letter or something. She called me. We got along well. She said, Tom, we decided to go with another agent. And, I said, and I learned this. This is a great lesson for me. So I said to her, listen, best of luck. Hopefully we'll see each other in the ranks. Good luck with everything. Good luck to Brian. Then when they had to fire that other agent, she called me up and she said, the reason we're coming back here is the way you handle things. When I told you that we weren't going to go with you as an agent, the class you handle.
Yeah, you build up that reputation, you get a good reputation, and you carry it with you, and people remember, and that's awesome. Now, so you get out of the agent business into how'd you get into the Survivor thing? You went, what was that, 2019, the 39th season you were on Survivor?
Yeah, 39th season, yeah. I turned 61 out there. It was fun. So, you know Jerry Bruckheimer, the producer?
Yeah.
So he was a piece of Big Brother, Amazing Race, and Survivor. And he came to the NHL looking for a couple of guys to go on Amazing Race. So they went to a bunch of guys. It wasn't just me. I got in trouble with guys like Gresh because nobody was in shape. Everybody's fat and out of shape. And I said this publicly. I got interviewed. And I said, well, none of my old teammates are in shape. So Gresh goes, oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of mine.
That didn't work out. So then a guy that was working with me at the time, Brian Gersh, really good guy, he knew somebody at Survivor. So I think somebody had been on Survivor, so they knew the casting directors and all that. So he said, do you want to get into this? And I said, sure, yeah, let's give it a shot. So they got on the phone. We did a video that Brian and his assistant put together. It's pretty cool, you know, because the big thing Survivor is they want to see your personality. They don't care what the personality is.
Do they pay you for being on that? Might I ask?
Yeah. It's not a lot. It's based on, it's $1 million to win it. The second place, I think, was 100,000. Then it goes on and scale down. So it's not much. And then they pay you to go to the finale in LA. Because a lot of people would probably go if they didn't get paid.
It was fun though, right? Good experience.
Blast. Loved it. Yeah. So, you know, in my motivational speaking now, I say to people, listen, don't make excuses. So don't look at something and say, well, I can't do that. Look at something and say, well, I can do that. And if the other things I can't do, I'll work at it. You know, and don't use age as an excuse. So so it was a blast. We go to LA for casting for 5 days. And, you know, again, same as you. You've been interviewed so many times. You don't get intimidated by that kind of stuff. So I walked in the room with all the CBS people, Jeff Probst, the host, and I've got the tight black T-shirt on, all jacked up and the whole bit. And I go over, like, Probst is tiny.
I'm going to win this fucking thing.
Yeah, I walked right over to him, and I stood on top, and I pointed the finger at him and said, you're mine. So yeah, I was totally cocky. The casting director was in the back, and his eyes were wide open. He was laughing. That's what they want. So he actually, in the meeting, there's two women from CBS, Probst turned to him and said, what do you think of him? One woman goes, you know, I like him. You know, he's confident but not cocky. And the other woman goes, what are you talking about? He's totally cocky. You know, so that's what I was looking for. So that was a blast. Going on it, just playing the game. You know,
Where was it held, Tom?
We were in Fiji.
Fiji. So day 14, you got kicked off the island. Yeah. And how many more days did they tape after that?
Go to 39 days.
39. Okay.
Yeah, I lost 27 pounds in that 2 weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, if I had stayed on for the whole thing,
right?
But I
because you got to find your own food and all that shit, right?
Yeah, they have rice there for you, so you have some calories. But I'm pretty careful with my diet. And I usually bring in around 3,000 to 3,500 calories now. Normal day. There, they figure we were only getting around 300 calories a day, and you're really active too. You know, you're out finding wood, you're doing challenges and everything. But it was just. I think the whole thing that you're just doing it, you know, like you think to yourself, God, I'm 61 years old. I'm out here sleeping on the beach in Fiji.
Right.
One of the funniest things, though, is it's the real deal. There's no toilet paper. There's no toilets. There's nothing. So you don't think about it when you're going on there. Where do you take your crap? Where do you go? So they teach you to go in the ocean. They call it an aqua bomb. But you're funny. So you're in the ocean. You take your poop, and now the poop's all floating around on the top of the water. And now the waves
chasing you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. You're trying to get into the shore, and the waves are crashing. And you're running away from, and you're in the deep water, so you can't really run. You know, it's that slow motion run, and your poop's chasing you. So just stuff like that was really the whole challenge part of it. It was. You know, you're making fire. You're sleeping in the rain sometimes.
So when you're voted off, do they take you out of there right away? You get on a plane and you're gone.
Yeah, but they won't let us go home until the show's done, because if you go home, then people will know when you got.
So where do they put you? Where they put you in a hotel?
For another 3 days. And we're in Fiji for another 3 days. Actually, put us in a nice hotel, and then they flew us to Brisbane, Australia, for 3 weeks. So we're in Australia.
Wow! So you stayed in.
Yeah.
Wow.
So two places I never would have gone. I wouldn't have gone to Fiji and Australia probably before. So it was like
that's neat.
Free vacation. They don't give you your phone or computers or credit cards or anything until you're done, until 39 days done, because they don't want any record again of where you are. So they give us cash. They put us up in a decent hotel in Australia, but they just give us enough cash to go to the grocery store and buy food, because they really don't want us wandering the streets and everything. So it's fun. Like, they take us on little trips. Like, we went to Surfers Paradise, which was beautiful. But as far as like wandering around and partying or having fun, there really wasn't much of that. So it was cool.
So you did that, and now for work, what are you doing now, Tom? You did the agent, you were a commentator for a while, played the NHL, did the Survivor thing, and a lot of public speaking.
So I've got another business too. It's called Post-Game Strategies. So what I saw was, when I was in the agent business, all these former players, as you know, we play charity golf tournaments, dinners, and you meet all these very successful people. Sometimes it's hedge fund managers, real estate guys, oil and gas. So I saw through the network that the players had, we would be able to put deals together. So especially in this area, we know a lot of hedge fund guys. And let's say you go out to Calgary, Alberta, and Kelly Kishio is out there. Working out there, he's a popular guy coaching the junior team, so he knows a lot of these oil and gas guys. Now, in a lot of cases, these guys are very successful and can get the money any place, but they'd rather deal with a former athlete. So we, like for instance, with Kelly, we were working on a deal for a young guy. He needed $500 million for an oil deal, and this is a really quality guy too. So I was just getting started in the business, learning it. Like you really got to get to know the fund manager. Like, what does he really want? Like, he works in oil and gas, he works in real estate. Because I was going to guys that had big money funds when they were doing real estate deals, and I'm trying to get them to do an oil deal. Yeah. And I was banging on the desk. I said, "Why don't you just do this deal?" And I learned a lot from guys, and it really, as you know, it really helps me, that former athlete, because again, these quality guys are getting the money.
It can open doors, right? Yeah. It opens doors, for sure.
So I learned, and these business guys are always telling me, Tom, when you call people up, you've got to tell them that you played for the New York Rangers and the LA Kings. They want to know that. And I was like, oh, God, I don't want to be
you hate to feel like you're bragging. Oh, I did this, I did that.
Yeah. So I finally realized, okay, these guys are pretty successful. So I called one guy up. It was funny. Didn't know him. I did a Google search, and he had like a multi-billion-dollar fund. He played college hockey. So I called him up. I talked to his secretary. I said, "It's Tom Laidlaw. I used to play for the New York Rangers." And literally, she dropped the phone, and I could hear the pitter-patter of the little feet. She's running down the hallway. And this guy I called gets back on the phone. He goes, "Who the fuck is this? Tom Laidlaw would never call me." Now, remember, this guy's got like a $10 billion fund, and he's like, "Tom Laidlaw would never call me." And I'm laughing. So he finally convinced him that I really was. He had me down to his office the next day for lunch. And his office was like a Hall of Fame. The secretary knew that it was a hockey call, that she had to get him on the phone right away.
That's awesome.
I learned from that. That's fun. And then I do the motivational speaking, like we talked before. I've got the book coming out, True Grit Life. Do a lot of clinics with kids and stuff. But again, the book writing process was really interesting.
Are you living in New York still?
Yeah. I'm in Greenwich, Connecticut.
Greenwich. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's good stuff.
We should get you on Survivor.
Yeah, I'd love to. You kidding me? I go on a heartbeat. Call him. Say Knuckles is ready to go.
Okay, we'll do that. Yeah,
I would do it in a heartbeat.
Things have happened to me since there's a new Bachelor show, Golden Bachelor or something like that for seniors.
Yeah, like the older guys. Yeah.
Right. So I had a marketing company contact me, want me to put an application go on that, and I thought, oh God, the idea is to get married.
I'm thinking, like, are they gonna call you? You think? Or?
Yeah, but I don't think they see the show's come out. I really built it that I was this healthy older guy, but they didn't want that. Like the guy they had on the first show, he's wearing a hearing aid and all this kind of stuff. So I think they didn't want
yeah. You got to be broken down a bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom, awesome stuff. Listen, the book 100 Ranger Greats, your number 87, and certainly a great man and a great human being. You've had a wonderful NHL career and done a lot of stuff in life afterwards. I wish you well with the book, True Grit Life, and when that comes out, we'll have to have you on
and
again.
You know what? I don't know if you get told this enough, but you were an inspiration to people too. You know, you had your troubles before, and not only did you fight through those troubles, but the way you are now as a person, the same thing. So you should be very proud of yourself as well. I
appreciate it, Tom. No question about it. And I was in a bit of a hole, but I dug myself out with lots of help. So much appreciated. Thanks so much.